John Cooper from the band Skillet here on the Made It in Music podcast. Man, thank you so much. You're actually the inaugural Made It in Music podcast.
Yes?
Yes, you are.
That's awesome. I'm glad they've officially made it.
You made it. You did make it. So this is
how people know I made it, is I'm getting to talk to Mosley right here.
This is episode 101. Done just all kinds of incredible stories here with artists, and Skillet being one of my favorite artists growing up. Was totally not going to share this, but just feeling it in the moment. But 8th grade, Grove City Christian School, you guys played at Grove City Nazarene Church in Ohio.
Right.
Totally don't expect you to remember that. But I was your green room water setup guy.
Oh my gosh. How come you never told me that? We've written like 500 songs together.
I literally just thought of it as
You've been holding it for this. You've been holding it for this moment. It's so selfish. I had no idea. Did we treat you bad?
No, not at all.
Korey did, didn't you? My wife, Korey, was like, you go get that water. And you don't speak.
No, I think I was surprised because, like, we were the ones, like, putting out snacks and stuff, and there was no, like, I think I had this expectation of, like, you have to put the yellow M&Ms in this dish, and you have to put the water over here. It has to be, like, a certain alkalinity or something. And there wasn't any of that, so that made a really great impression for whatever that was.
Oh, that's good. Well, I had no idea. That's so funny.
Didn't plan on sharing that. Just came to me. But anyway, man, thanks so much for taking the time. We're thick in the throes of making a new project, and I've been fortunate to be able to write with you some for it. And man, why don't we just go all the way back to the beginning, like
before all of the audience, before they were born. We're going to go back to then.
What was your
in the beginning was the word.
Yes, that. So somewhere in between that and what was your very first dollar you made in music?
Oh, okay. Probably when I was about 15 is when I started singing in my first band, and
can you share the name?
Well, technically, for about 3 months, I had a band called Tribulation.
Tribulation.
It was a couple of my friends, like played metal covers, and they're like, we need a singer, and the only person they knew, like, crazy enough to get up and sing in front of anybody was me. I just would do anything. And they wanted me to sing covers, and it was all metal covers. A lot of the songs I didn't know because I wasn't allowed to listen to rock music in my house. I couldn't even listen to Christian rock music. So a lot of it I didn't even really know, but I heard it at my friend's house, but I didn't know the lyrics. So they'd have to write down lyrics for me, and I'd sing Kiss songs and Metallica songs and stuff. Yeah. We did that for a few months. But my dream was to play in a Christian band because I'd heard Petra, which is, my all-time band, I learned, Petra helped me through so many things. So I thought I would love to play Christian music like Petra. And the guys in the band didn't want to do Christian music. And I met someone that said, I want to do Christian music. So we started our own band, and we started writing original stuff when I was 15. Probably played our first gig when I was 15, but didn't get paid. Probably got paid around 16 years old.
Okay, that's pretty early.
It is. We were playing a couple of club things in town, and I think I got paid like $30, and it'd probably be the equivalent of now of making $50, And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the dream. I could buy pizza afterwards.
I love it. So between then and when you went full time, was Skillet full time, or was there a big journey in between that?
There was a big journey. I mean, I played in this band called Seraph for years, 3 or 4 years. That was kind of my dream, with a bunch of guys.
And were you the singer?
I was a singer.
Yeah.
In a Christian band, and I think eventually, I'm trying to remember exactly. I started a side thing for fun with my buddy in the band. We started another band. It was like a funk band. We needed a bass player, and I couldn't fess with it. Seraph lost their bass player.
Okay. Yeah.
And bass players are hard to find. So anybody out there that doesn't want to just write songs and want to be in a band, you play bass, because there are no bass players. There's no glory in it. Everyone wants to play guitar or whatever, or drums now.
Yeah.
They want to beat like a conga or something. But it used to be guitar. And I was like, I can play bass. How hard is it? It's one note at a time. So I started playing bass. And eventually it led to my pastor saying, hey, you should start a side project with this other guy from this other band. I think you guys would be really good together. And I was like, I'll write some songs. And he said, yeah, if you do, you could call it Skillet. It'd be like taking all these different ingredients out of different bands and throwing it all in a skillet.
I never heard that story. So that's literally where that came from.
Yeah, I was 20.
Crazy.
And that's when we started Skillet. And I didn't think it would take off. I was hoping my other band was going to happen. And this happened, and I was prayed about it. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going to drop out of college to be in a band. I always wanted to play music for my life. I never thought I'd make money doing it.
Sure.
So I was afraid to drop out of school.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was easier because I was failing out of school. So it was either like fail and go do a band, or just fail and be miserable.
So you guys, I assume, just hopped on the road, started touring. I mean, how were you like opening on tours, or what was like your path of entry into this whole thing?
Sometimes it's hard for people to know what 1996 was like. I mean, let me bring a few things into this. Today's world is science fiction compared to 1996.
In what way?
I had never heard of the internet. I mean, it was around, I suppose. I've learned now. I've read it in history books. But I didn't know anybody who knew what the internet was. And my generation didn't grow up with it. So you didn't go click to find new bands. The only way you found new bands was at a record store. Word of mouth, one of your friends that would have like a burned tape. I found this local band you got to check out, or you go watch bands play.
Yeah.
And going to watch a band play on the weekend was about the awesomest thing you could do. There was nothing more fun than going to at a club and watching a band play.
Yeah.
Maybe do some moshing or headbanging or whatever. It was very much. It wasn't niche culture. It was pop culture.
Yeah.
So we would just go play for whatever. At all these like Christian coffee houses, a youth group, a Nazarene church, wherever we could play. A lot of it was just like, sometimes the rooms wouldn't be much bigger than this room. We'd go and set up and rock out for 20, 30 people, sell some t-shirts. What we noticed early on was that we had a very loyal following. People would be like, for whatever reason, this is the best show I've ever seen. They for whatever reason, they liked it. It wasn't many of them. Yeah. And that's how we made our money. And very kind of quickly, within a few months, we had a record deal.
Sure.
With Ardent Forefront Records at the time in the Christian market. Forefront was crushing at the time.
Yeah.
Forefront had DC Talk, Audio Adrenaline, Rebecca St. James. They were good, great label.
Yeah. So when you got that record deal, was it like off to the races, or was it what you expected?
What I expected was to be the next Green Day. I'm going to be huge because, this is amazing music, I'm being kind of facetious, but when you're 20 years old and you're making your music and you're in a band and you're playing every night, if you don't have a certain amount of, I don't mean arrogance, but I really don't mean arrogance, but a certain amount of like, you have to be a little crazy to get out there and do that every night.
Yeah.
Like, hey, everybody, come here and watch me. I'm going to do something you've not seen yet. You have to have a certain amount of craziness, faith in yourself. I believed it was going to be big, and I found out very quickly how wrong I was. How hard it is to make a huge hit song, to sell 1 million records. I mean, it was a whole different thing. So there always is that little time at the beginning when you have these big dreams of, I think it's realistic that I could be a YouTube star.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks there's a chance they could get on The Voice.
Yeah.
There's a chance I could do it, and you make the top 150 or whatever.
Right.
It's a lot harder once you dig into it.
Yeah. What were some of the things that were way harder than you thought they were going to be?
I knew the road would be hard because I had already been on the road. Things that, I didn't understand the politics of music. I mean, does that make sense? Or do I need to explain that to people?
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I didn't understand that So, like, if you watch politics or you find out somebody, you're like, I believe in that person, I want to vote for them. And then you find out, well, really the only reason they got there is they made a deal with someone else and they owed them a favor and they gave them a chance. And that's why they don't really care about you. They care about getting money from people that are funding whatever.
Sure.
That kind of politics.
Sure.
I didn't realize that it would be as much about me going into a radio station and they say, we play my song. They say, no, not unless you'll come do a free concert for us.
Yeah.
I didn't know that would exist. So for me, I was like, I'm not doing that. You guys are the man.
Sure.
And this is the 90s. And again, putting yourself in the 90s was anarchy, disrupt the system. I mean, just think about if you've all the read history books.
Yeah.
Nirvana, and I mean, the whole world was changing so rapidly. It was all against the man. So for me, I was like, you're a freaking sellout. I'm not coming to do something for free. You're not going to use me. I'll do my music on my own. I don't need your crappy station. And I found out that I really needed their crappy station really, really, really much. That was disillusioning because I actually thought it was about the music, and it's not. Other disillusioning things for me, I never knew that being a Christian musician tag was going to hurt me with a mainstream audience. It never crossed my mind. I knew people said it, but I really believed they're also the man, because I've got tons of atheist friends. I've got tons of non-Christian friends that come to our concerts. They're like, your music touches me. You know, I knew that was the case. So I had a theory that it wasn't really true, but people were just afraid to try.
Yeah.
And if I can be so bold,
Totally.
when they did try, I think the best way I heard it said by a Christian musician called Glenn Kaiser, somebody I really look up to. Glenn Kaiser said to me, he's like, you know, the problem with Christian crossover bands, they want to cross over, but they never take the cross over. I actually thought that is a really, it sounds a little cheesy. It's a little like a bumper sticker.
Sure.
It's true. People cross over and they realize they're afraid. If they have the Jesus tag, people won't play the music. They get made fun of, whatever. They get blacklisted. And it is true. There's a lot of pressure there, so I'm not dissing on anybody else. So I believe that we could actually do that. And I found out quickly I was wrong. 1998 was the first time Atlantic Records wanted to sign us. They kept sending all these guys out to see us.
Yeah.
You're going to be the next Rob Zombie. You're going to be the next Marilyn Manson. We're going to do it. Call me on Monday. I think they said 5. They came out 5 times to see us play concerts. That's, which, you know, that's a lot. You know, you usually meet the label, showcase, come out for a show, you strike a deal or you don't. 5 concerts they came. And he's like, call me Monday. I'm doing this deal. I've got the producer. He was telling me the producer was, we're going to change a keyboard line on track 1. We're going to add a hook on 3. You're going to be the next big thing. Wow. I call him Monday and he won't answer my calls. Tuesday, this is after 5 times he's come to see us. I call him. 2 weeks later, he finally picks up. He's like, hey, I've been dodging and I got to be honest. I'm going to get crucified if I sign a Christian band. I just can't do it. My label's going to kick me out. So if you can drop the Jesus thing, we can do it. If you don't drop the Jesus thing, we can't do it. And so we didn't sign with Atlantic in 1998. Yeah. But a funny thing happened. They signed POD in 1998. Yeah. Maybe about 8 months later. Yeah. The difference was that POD wasn't as known in the Christian world as we were already known. And I was I was a POD fan. Sure. So, of course, I was in a good way jealous, but I was excited because I felt that they were a band that would be vocal about their faith and stuff. So that's a long story, but those are the things that were disillusioning for me. Yeah, that's really good. Man, and I guess I had never thought about that with POD because a lot of bands or artists just don't really have a clear identity in the beginning. And if I'm hearing you right, it's really important to know who you are on the front end. POD maybe knew that that's where they wanted to start. So did they just not make as big of an effort in the Christian world, or like what do you think of those? I actually think that they did. Now, I mean, we're not great friends. I don't want to speak for them, but I want to be clear. I totally got their back because I was a fan. Yeah. I think POD was started as a Christian act and very loyal to it, but never just gained enough popularity. I think they were just too heavy for the Christian world.
Sure.
It was too fringe,
Yeah.
too urban. They were so urban, even though they were metal.
Yeah.
They were from wherever in California. So
Yeah.
I think that it just happened because they didn't have as much baggage as we did, and they were able to do something different. We had a lot of baggage for those labels. Yeah. But I will say, what I'm saying is you need to know who you're going in. This industry will chew you up and spit you out. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that a lot of Christians, and I don't want to name them, we all know who they are. There's tons of huge celebrities who say they're Christians.
Sure.
But I look at their lives and I'm like, that looks nothing like Jesus. And if I was your pastor, we'd be having meetings every day, That's not what it means to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Even one artist, I can't even believe this, won't name it, but you know what? I'm bold like a lion. So I'm just going to say
I love it.
To see an artist, there's a little edgy.
Yeah.
Photos on Billboard, on her website, on her albums, to be half nude on a record, and leading worship at Hillsong.
Yeah,
that makes no sense. And you know what? I don't even care if Hillsong's watching. They shouldn't be doing it. They're wrong for it.
Yeah.
And whoever her pastor is, and they say, hey, you can do one or the other. We love you. God loves you no matter what you do, and God doesn't judge. But you are bringing something on. I believe those churches that do that and the artists, you're bringing something on yourself you shouldn't be bringing, because there's a higher standard for leadership, the Bible says.
Wow.
There's a high. You're not only bringing someone you shouldn't bring. You're inviting attack from the enemy in a way you shouldn't be doing, and I believe you're hurting, to me, the cause of how beautiful grace is. It's not cheap.
Sure.
It was costly, to quote, my wife's favorite Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with that. And a lot of Christians, they don't know what they want to do. They don't have a pastor. They don't have a Christian manager. And I got to give a shout out. If you want to be in that market, have a Christian person that understands what you're trying to do. If I didn't have my manager, it's easy to listen to those voices that go, hey, I know you want to be a Christian. I'm totally for it. I think it's great. But don't you think you could reach more people if you never talked about Jesus? They say things that sound like wisdom, but they're really not.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like in Lord of the Rings when and the Fellowship of the Ring, end of the movie. If you remember when Boromir's trying to take the ring from Frodo and he's going in the circle. Don't you think it could actually help us? And then Frodo says, I know what you would say, and it would sound like wisdom except for the warning in my heart. That is what my Christian manager has done for me, and my Christian wife has done for me, and my Christian pastors have done for me. Yeah. So no compromise. And if you don't get the next level, you don't get the success, who cares?
Yeah. So whether people who are watching or listening to this are Christians or not, I think what can be gathered is, you've got to know who you are. You have to stick to whatever set of principles or operating system it is that you live by. And what I think is so cool about your story, I never knew that about the Atlantic Records coming 5 times passing. They later came back around. What point was that in the Skillet career? 5
years later, 2003, and it was a fight, man. It was such a fight, and they kept saying we really just love the band. Yeah. And at that point, though, you'd had POD, huge success. I'm trying to remember if Switchfoot I think Switchfoot was just having humongous success in a huge way. And with that amazing record that they released, Beautiful Letdown it was called. Things were changing, I think. I think that Christian music was showing that it was not second rate. And there's always been great Christian music. It just never got a decent look, in my opinion. They were realizing, okay, second rate, culture was changing. We started noticing in the 2000s, after 2001, which was, of course, the Twin Towers of September 11th. Yeah. We started noticing that culture was more open to spiritual things in general. And so, the 90s was a dark era. Most rock music was about violence and anger in the 90s. It started getting more about open spiritual things. So people were like, so what does it mean to you to be a Christian? So they were a little bit more open, but still, it was still hard doing that deal. And I think we put out a record that they really liked. Yeah. I think that's what changed. We had a record called Collide. Yeah. And I think they went, you know what? maybe there's something to this band. We'll do something. But in the end, if you want my honest opinion, I think God opened the doors. It's kind of miraculous. And I could talk for 2 hours on all the things that happened. They'd make you laugh, and you'd say, that's impossible. And God kept opening doors, and it finally happened.
Yeah. Which is amazing. And you're still making records with them today. I've been always follow you on social media, posting pictures of your double platinum records. And it's just, I don't say that to, blow smoke, but I just think it's a really cool story and it's inspiring to a lot of our listeners of just be who you are.
Right.
And don't.
Absolutely.
Yes. Don't sell out.
Doesn't mean it's always going to work out.
Yeah.
The way you want, and mine didn't work out for a long time. And there was a lot, do I just need to quit? Am I getting out of touch? And maybe the music's just not that good, Maybe it's why nobody's buying it, But feeling a call to keep doing what you believe in. Yeah. And I think coming to terms, I think that's mature. I know there's a lot of people watching aren't Christians. It's hard for me to talk about this stuff without bringing my faith in. I think maturity and God is going, all right, it's not about me. So it's about you. I don't want to be dumb, but it's about you. And so if you're giving me something to say, you're giving me some sort of audience to say, whether it's huge success, moderate, no success, if you're still in it, I want to be here doing it. So it's a little bit to me like, not every story ends like Joseph in the Bible.
Right.
Right. We like those stories because it starts and you think it's just going so bad. But in the end, God makes him Pharaoh. Not every story goes like that. Yeah. Sometimes you got the saints that they never saw Moses never saw the promised land. And you got the saints that never saw what they were believing for. Instead, they were murdered in the streets. Yeah. But they still kept going for it. So not to compare us to saints who were murdered in the streets. We have a lot better job than that. But it still is a calling, and it still is a drive. So for people who aren't Christians, I think what I would say, a similar way to look at it is just going, do what you believe in, be who you are. That's where true satisfaction is going to come from. We believe that true satisfaction comes because we please God and what he's called us to do. But still, true satisfaction, even without God, having a life that you enjoy is not bound down to the man and having all the money. That's why everybody all these people in Hollywood with all the money and fame, they're all addicted to stuff, and they're not actually happy people. The most beautiful people in the world are the most insecure people in the world in Hollywood, because it's not really what they're looking for. They want to feel they matter. Yeah. So I think doing music, in this case, writing songs you believe in, being yourself, you can go to bed every night and say, I'm happy with who I am,
Yeah, that's so good. There's two sides of it, because there's the one side where be who you are, don't sell out, don't do anything, people are trying to pressure you to do. And then there's the other side that you have to weigh in the balance of, I need the radio station to play my song.
Right.
How have you found that? We talked a little bit about that this morning, even just your journey, as a songwriter.
Sure. Yeah, in the end, I was wrong. You do need to go play that free concert. So the radio, if you watch the beginning, you need to play it twice, all right? Yeah. It's politics, and you got to do what you got to do. I mean, you need that radio station. It's still, for us, the absolute best way to reach a mass audience. I mean, you can do it without radio, but it's the best, easiest way, and that made our career go from successful, underground, loyal following, selling records, making a little bit of money. Radio's what took it to 2 million records, which I never thought would happen. Sure. But besides, remember I said before I recorded my first record, I thought 10 million. Yeah. After the first month of touring, I'm like, oh yeah, nobody likes us. Anyway, you do have to be willing. I think there's a difference between compromising like who you are and being willing to try something new. You don't want to compromise your identity or something that like really matters, but going, hey, I want to try something new. And that's been key for Skillet. If Skillet was still making records like my first one, when I'm like, no, hey, John, I think it'd be smart for radio if we tried this. No. It'd be smart for a new audience if you try a little, no. Try a song acoustic, no. We would not be anywhere. Yeah. So I think you have to put your pride down and go, okay, what is it that is changing about music? And I think if I have anything real valuable to share, it would probably be to do with the fact that I'm not 21 anymore, that I was raised in a time with no Pro Tools. the idea of recording an album on a computer was science fiction or something that people did because they had no money to go into a real studio. There was no internet really. There was no internet marketing, no iTunes. So if you could not literally get your physical CD into a store, no one would buy it.
Yeah.
So bands like Skillet, we sold out, and we'd always go into music stores. There's no Skillet CDs. They say we sold both of them out. Both of them. How can you ever sell 100,000 records if you're not carrying anything?
Right.
So for me, it's not only all that shit. Culture has changed. People are different than they used to be. Their attention spans are different. What they like to hear is different. And so if I have anything valuable to share, it would probably be that, okay, I'm willing to say, I will not compromise who I am. There's some things about me that I like and that I know my fans like.
Yeah.
And I want to do something unique and be myself, but be willing to go to somebody and say, how can we make this a little bit new?
Yeah.
There's some new things we can do.
Yeah.
And that's what me and you did on Feel Invincible.
Yeah.
I think most people hear Feel Invincible would say, that sounds like a really fresh, new version of Skillet. It's still my voice.
Sure.
Still the kind of lyrics that I write.
Yeah.
And it's still loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's got some new stuff in it.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I love it. Let's dive into the Full Circle 5.
Oh, baby. I don't even know what it is, but I love it.
We're here. What's the number one book or record that you most commonly recommend to people?
Can I do two?
You can
or
do
I
two?
have to do one?
Just whatever's on your heart.
My two most impactful books in my life, one of them is called The Sovereignty of God.
Okay.
From A.W. Pink. That movie was, sorry, I said movie. It's because I love movies as well.
Yeah.
That book, in my biblical thinking, really transformed me and took me to a new level of realizing that God is in control of everything. And if I don't write a hit song today, it's fine.
Yeah.
And if I never write a hit song, it's fine because it's not really about me. How can I use my talents for Him?
Yeah.
And again, I think that's maturity in Christ. The more you get older, you become an older man, older woman walking with God, you realize John the Baptist really was right, that I need to just decrease and He needs to increase, and that's when I'm the happiest. So Sovereignty of God is a great one. Not everybody's going to agree on the theology of it. It's harshly Calvinistic.
Sure.
And what I would probably say is tied with my favorite book of all time is a philosophy book by a guy called Chesterton.
Yep.
Chesterton is his name, and it's called Orthodoxy. And that book blew me away. I love that book. That's tied with Frankenstein for my favorite book. Frankenstein is for fun. Orthodoxy is for the brain.
I love it.
And the heart.
We'll post links to all those on
Please
in the
do.
show notes for people. So, second question. Failure only turns into a lesson if it changes your perspective or changes the way you behave on something. Do you have a favorite failure in life that you like, man, I really took something away from that?
I am my wife's favorite failure. If you had her here, she could tell you. No, I'm kidding. I mean, honestly, yeah, there's been a lot of them in my life. And I think that, I hope I'm not sound like a broken record, like I got nothing else to say. I think when your life becomes, it's okay for your life to kind of seem like it's consumed with music. It is. It's pretty much what my whole life ends up being about. But it's not necessarily a terrible thing as long as it's not like an ultimate thing. You know, it has to be. I have 15 employees.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to get paid.
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. My kids, hopefully, I know I can send one to college. I hope I can send both.
Yeah.
That was a joke. Anyway, I got to put food on the table. There's all these things to think about. But I think realizing that the amazing success of like our Awake record, we had 2 million records, realizing that was not really because of me. I mean, yes, I wrote the songs, and yes, we worked really hard. A lot of times people go, hey, people always mean it as a compliment, and it's really nice to say, you guys worked so hard, you deserve it. And I always appreciate that. It's always a really nice compliment. But working really hard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get that. And in the end, God just decided to open those doors. Then you come back to the process. Your brain's freaking out because you just had the biggest hard rock record in the world.
Yeah.
And you're one of the biggest touring rock acts in the world, and you're all this pressure to make. I got to make a good record. I did it once. And then things don't go like you hope. And they don't go, and then you feel like a failure. And in the end, what you have to realize is, it doesn't mean that those songs aren't good. It doesn't mean that you're not good. It doesn't mean whatever. God just didn't open the doors this time. And I think that for me, it's the biggest lesson I can learn in my life is going. It comes down to trusting God.
Yeah,
it's like Christianity 101, but it's also the advanced course. Where you go back and you learn all the basics. It's kind of like, before the Super Bowl, they're probably not learning all the new advanced stuff. They're probably saying, everybody needs to work hard this week. You need to sleep. You need to drink a lot of water. You need to go over the basics. That's what I've learned in my life.
It's good. It's really good. Thinking back to pre-Skillet, before you dove fully full-time in, what was the number one thing that kind of held you back from that?
Before... I was just scared I wouldn't have any money, scared I wouldn't be able to pay my bills, you know. Some of that probably comes also culturally. I mean, I was raised in the 80s, and the 80s was a very much a time of affluence, the Reagan era, and education. It was very much looked at in my generation. If you didn't go to college, then you're a deadbeat. You'll never amount to anything if you don't graduate college. And if you don't make a lot of money, you're a loser. And if you don't, do this, if you care more about. In fact, if you care more about Christ than money, you're a little bit off because Christ wants you to have money. He wants you to be responsible. It was a little like that, which I don't agree with that stuff, of course, but that was the upbringing. Yeah. So in college, I thought, music's the only thing I'm good at. I would love to do it full time, but I'm scared to do it. So to be honest, dropping out of college to do it was a bit of a leap of faith for me. That was the biggest fear.
It's good. What's something that's working for you right now?
Working for me?
Yeah.
Probably two things, which was being willing to try new stuff. And not even be willing, being excited to try new stuff, going, hey, I want to try this. Everybody, young people are doing it. They know how to use computers. I should learn how to use a computer. When you don't, it's hard to explain now when they're young. It makes me sound like so old. To think about all the changes in the last 5 years, 10 years. We didn't have a cell phone. When we first toured, we had to buy world maps, and then you drive into Iowa, and you'd have to buy a local map because the roads are so small, you can't read them, but how to get to the Nazarene church where some future great producer like Seth is going to come give me brown M&Ms only, or I'm going to freak out. We're looking at maps. I think that's the road, and you're driving in the... remember Dumb and Dumber? When
I totally remember.
I thought the Rockies were going to be a little rockier. Being willing to go, you know what? I want to do it. I want to jump into something new. Being willing to try new stuff, but also having confidence in who you are. That is so important because I've had a lot of pressure in the last few years to shift skill, try something new. In fact, become something new.
Sure.
But do that, and I'm just like, no, I know who I am. Yeah. I know that I won't be happy doing that. I actually don't think business-wise it'll work anyway because I'm a rock guy. I'm a rock singer. You're not going to catch me singing Colton Dixon songs. It's just as much as I wish I could, I don't have Colton's voice. This is, I talk like this in interviews, and people like you, not you because you know me, but the interview would be like, whoa, you sound like you had a bad night. Are you losing your voice? I'm like, no, this is how I talk, man. So, just being comfortable with who you are, being confident in who God's called you to be.
It's good. Last question. If you woke up tomorrow and Skillet, the business, whatever it is, it all disappeared and fell apart, and you had to start from square one, but you still have all the experiences and knowledge and wisdom that you currently possess, what would you do?
Now, do you mean for music or just in life in general?
Could be, it could be something in music, could be something completely different.
Just in, okay, I see what you're saying. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know, Seth. That's a ridiculously hard question. I should have read through that one. I think it's hard for me because I do have kind of a dichotomy about me. The two things I'm passionate most, is music. I'm more passionate about Christ, of course, but I'm finding a way to do Christ is at the top.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The two things under Christ is music and ministry. And I love youth.
Yeah.
I've always thought I'd be a youth minister whenever Skillet ends, and Skillet never seems to end, which is awesome. And I'm getting older now. I love ministry. I love the idea of pastoring. I love the idea of leading a home group. That's what we call it, home group.
Yeah.
A small group at your house from your church where I could care for a small amount of people. I'm not the head pastor, but I think I could do that well. Teach a bit of theology with that. I'm really passionate about that, making disciples. And I try to kind of include that in my music job if I can, whether it's we're out on tour in Winter Jam now, meeting with all the bands, talking. I'm not discipling them in Christ, but I can encourage them in Christ. I can say, I hear what you say, the Bible says this about this, and iron sharpening iron, the Bible says. We're making each other better. I like that aspect. I love evangelism. So I'm all over the map. So you say, what would you do now? Well, I probably would still try to do music. Yeah. If I could start over completely now, I think, I would understand that music is a business. It is political. Yeah. You are selling yourself. It's not all against the man, sometimes you have to make a deal with the man to get to where you want to be. And that's okay. It's in the end, it's about winning. It's about winning to get where you want to be. And don't be afraid to do that. And don't be afraid to tell people, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't like it.
It's good. It's good. So talk about, if you care to share anything of what's going on with the new record, new projects, Skillet Music.
I honestly, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast. I am having so much fun. I know I've shared that with you. Yeah. In a personal way, me and you got together on our last record, which was called Unleashed. Everybody here that doesn't know Unleashed is sinning by not having Unleashed. All right, go Spotify it, or better yet, go buy it.
We'll post it in our show notes.
Yes. And Mosley will put a little hat. You can buy a Mosley hat, buy it or something with your credit card. A PayPal. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm old. Not a credit card. PayPal. Anyway, I'm having so much fun. On our last record that we did, when I met you, we started writing some songs together. Life just got. Music got fun again because I wasn't trying so hard. I wasn't trying to fit a mold. It was kind of getting in a situation where I'm like, okay, this is a good relationship with me and my wife, Korey. We write a lot together. Having this relationship where the music has a lane. We're finding the lane where Skillet belongs, and we're having fun writing hooks. And I don't have to stress so much about every little word, every little note. If it feels good, we try it, I'm just having a great time. So where we're at with Skillet now, riding on the road, which I've really enjoyed, and maybe a new thing for me whenever I say about not being afraid to try something new. Up until 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't know how to turn a computer on and get my own email, okay? My wife has to do it for me. She sets up my phone. I'm like, how do I get into Twitter? This thing won't open. You got to put a password. I don't know what a password is. And now I can do my own Pro Tools work. I can record my own music. I can do... Of course, I play guitar and things like that, so I've always been able to play it. I've never been able to engineer it, and now I can do it on my own. So finding that I can record records while I tour, because that's when I get the most inspired. I meet the fans. I hear their crazy stories about how one of my songs, helped save their lives or helped check them in. I heard a song that said, I need to go to rehab because of that song. It's the only thing that got me through drug rehabilitation or a divorce. I hear these songs. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to write another song. That's so inspiring. So writing this new record is just so much fun. And my wife Korey and I are digging in like every day. And also I'm kind of relinquishing all the production to her. I'm not even producing most of it. She's doing most of it now. So Korey,
she's amazing.
She's wicked, right?
Totally. Very. I don't know if you'd call it secret weapon because people I'm sure know how talented she is, but. I think we were talking about this last week. My daughter is a huge Skillet fan. She refers to you guys as Skeleton.
Which is such a better name than Skillet. I'm throwing it out. If I could start over tomorrow, I'd start over with the name Skeleton.
But she loves Breaking Free. I think it was your latest single off of the deluxe edition. Yeah. And we've just been jamming it in our house on Spotify, and she has this whole dance routine. And I think I asked you guys, like, okay, so who produced and who mixed that? And you're like, yeah, we just did it on the road.
Yeah.
Like you and Korey.
It's the only song that we fully produced ourselves on the record, and we did the entire thing in the bus.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and maybe a dressing room or two. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like a locker room, you know.
Yeah. So
well, thank you, though. She's great, and
Yeah.
she's better at that than I am, and it's a good partnership because now I'm like, okay, you're going to do this, and I just like, go do something awesome for me and make me a lot of money while you're at it, and then make me a brownie or something. No, I'm kidding. She likes to cook. I'm not saying that women have to be the one making brownies. Men can make brownies too. And
it's modern. It's 2018.
I don't make brownies myself, you know, but I do laundry.
Yeah, hey.
I can do laundry like a beast.
Hey, there you go.
So anyway, I do the laundry. She makes me a hit song, but it's a good partnership. So we're having a lot of fun. I think the fans are going to really like it.
Good.
I don't think we're trying something new in terms of we're rebranding everything, but every time we write, we're trying something a little new and fresh, and just having a lot of fun. I think the fans are going to love it. So
great.
This is the new Skillet era. Hopefully, we release this year.
Yeah, love it. Well, John, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for taking
Lots
the
of
time
fun.
to be on the podcast.
I love it.